Hello, Eikester here on the Sage channel, and as per usual, upon a Thursday, an update has befallen us for space engineers. Well, today's update might just be the most fantastic thing added to the game in quite some time. If maybe ever, frankly. It is an autopilot update, basically. It allows you to set waypoints, well, we could already set waypoints, but it allows you to set ships to go from waypoint to waypoint and backtrack on themselves and do it again, which is called patrolling. Go from waypoint to waypoint and then to waypoint and then back to the first waypoint again and then continue looping. Circle, or the last one, which is one way, which means it goes from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint and it just sits there. No going back to the start or anything silly like that. So to demonstrate that, I have a few ships set up here and you can see them all going about. And to better demonstrate it even, I'm going to grab this one right here, drag it over here, and when I say waypoints, I mean these buggers right here. So you press K, you go to GPS at the top right, and you have these waypoints set up, your GPS coordinates, and those are all programmed into these machines. So the machine on the right that you see right there is set to patrol, the machine right here is set to circle. And to demonstrate those, I'm actually going to show you how you select that and set it up first. So I'm going to fly down here to this control panel on this drone, access it, and to do that you go to the remote control block. So I got two here, just ignore that. You select the remote control, it's all pretty much the same, but as you scroll down you'll see you have a big old autopilot button and a flight mode. Well, the flight mode's basically what I've been talking about. You click patrol to patrol, so it'll keep going back and forth, and the best way to show it is actually to go ahead and fly over with spectator and just to point at this. So A is that corner, B is that corner, C is that corner, and obviously it's heading back from C to B right now, and it's going to go back to A. Once it gets to A, it's just going to go right on back to B to C and just keep on looping back and forth. That's patrolling. Circling is extremely simple. That's just A to B to C, then back to A, and it'll just keep going around in a big circle basically. So really, really simple. That's what this one here is doing. And then the last one is super simple. I believe it was called one way. And that is just where it goes to A, to B, to C, and then it just stays there at C. So let's go ahead, grab that remote control thing, and once again, just control, yeah, one way. That's the one. So let's go ahead and actually set one of these up, just so I can show you guys how you set it up. And I set these up by just having something like this. I put the pillars so I'll have all the same height. That way the machine doesn't get off kilter and it looks like it's just hovering with it almost as if it has keep upright turned on the y-axis. But basically, I'm going through here. I'm going to do create new from current position. Voila. The GPS update stuff, it's all the same that you're used to. So you can new from clipboard. If somebody sent you one, you can do a control C on the information. You can do new from clipboard. It'll add a waypoint wherever. You can new from current position, which just puts it at your feet wherever you're standing or floating, or just new. And of course, then it creates a new one, and you just type in the information. You can, of course, just click delete on your keyboard or click the delete button down there to get rid of it. So we got Eikester 1. Let's fly over to the other waypoint here. You've probably already figured it out. It's actually quite simple, but I figure I should just show it just to be safe. GPS, create from current position, and then once again, create from current position. Just a reminder, it does place the waypoint at your feet, so if you're trying to fit a ship through a tight space, make sure you're actually aligning it pretty much with your feet correctly. Otherwise, you could end up in a spot of bother where, well, you think it's going to place it at your center of mass or something, and it doesn't weigh down there at your feet. So anyway, let's remove that. Please don't fall. Okay, I thought I was going to go all the way through the ground there, basically. Got that. I thought I was going to miss the ledge is what I'm saying. So now I've gone ahead and set this up the exact same way I did those other ones. Let's also go ahead back to GPS, and let's go ahead and click this little show on HUD button. So we turn that off and we no longer have to see it on HUD. And now let's go ahead and access our drone. So this one was just one we were looking at really quick. Here's the one we're actually going to use. This is called the Waypoint drone. So I'm going to go ahead and select it since it has an antenna on it. And we're going to go ahead and select the remote control forward. And we're just going to set this up to do a one way to start out with. And we're going to go ahead and find our waypoints in this big list right here. So once you click one, it list unfortunately jumps all the way back up to the top. It's a little bit of a bug. You click add, don't worry, it still has it connected. Go ahead and select your next one. Again, it jumps up to the top. You still have it selected. Go ahead, click adds, adding them to this list right up here. And once again, the final one, we can add that as well. So now we got all three there. And of course, if we were to actually look at the drone, you can see it's still just sitting still. It's going to do that until we go ahead and actually turn on the autopilot. So let's go ahead, click it, and turn on autopilot. And there we go. Now it is going to start moving. You see there, very slowly. It turns, it tries to fly to the actual waypoint that you've set up. Now, please note, it's not lining its center of mass up with the waypoint, it's lining its remote control block up with the waypoint. So inside the ship, just next to that antenna basically, we actually have a remote control block in there. It lines that up with the waypoint, so it's flying straight to it. Now that it's reached the end there, it just stops because we did the one way. And of course, we can go ahead and go back to it, set up the waypoint drone to actually just do a circle, and we can have it just carry on circling forever. There we go, circle. And it'll just keep on doing that. Now, mind you, you might decide that you want to change the pattern here or add more. You can easily do that. All you got to do is, of course, click one of these and click the add. And now it'll go, once it reaches waypoint 3, it'll go here. Well, let's say after waypoint 2, you wanted it to go there. Very simple, you just move it on up. And there you go, after waypoint 1, it'll go to R4, which I believe I have somewhere out there. I don't actually have it visible on screen. So there you go, you can see it's reached there. It's going to go to 3, to 1, and then it'll head off to 4. Now, I should also take this time to point out something. This drone does not have a camera on it. This drone is completely blind. Even if it did have a camera on it, it still actually is blind. If you put something directly in front of it, it will run straight into it. It has no idea what's there, so your drones will collide with one another. So there we go. Now it's going to go for R4, which is a, well, I don't know, it's somewhere up there. There we go. It's lined up with it, so it's going to fly off to it. And now you can see that I was talking about the keep upright. The ship is now tilted off to its side like this, because it's just basically trying to aim to the left and then up once it's lined up with it. So it creates some funkiness, or it aims up and then to the left. But now, of course, it's going to try to make its way back to waypoint 2 and then 3. It's going to loop in this circle now. So, again, no camera on it. Even if it did have a camera, it's completely blind, though, so gotta watch out for that. And there is no keep upright function. It's just, I had to spend some time lining these up to make them look like they're actually going to be hovering without tilting or anything. So you can see this guy, he's he's turning to get back to waypoint 1, and he's just going to carry on his loop. But let's actually go ahead and disable that really quickly. So waypoint drone, let's go ahead and disable his remote control functions. I believe at the bottom right there it says what coordinates he's going to. So he's going to current waypoint R4, so he's on his way back up there again. Let's go ahead, yeah, he's reached it. So let's go ahead and shut off this, remove this, and when we turn it back on, it resets, so it's going to waypoint 1 again. It resets it from the very beginning when you turn autopilot on and off. It's important to remember, because of course if you have a very complex setup and it's going through all these tunnels or something, or through a cave, or any dangerous stuff near your machines, if you turn off autopilot and turn it back on, it's going to try to go straight back to the very first coordinate, and it's going to go that way in a straight line, so it's going to go straight through your buildings if you're not cautious. Of course, you could rearrange the order so its closest waypoint starts up there, but just be aware of that. Another thing, let's set this to one way. Let's turn it on and off again so it'll reset. There's a setup actions button here right at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and you can see we have a bunch of stuff here. So let's go ahead and click this guy here. This is the back one. And let's set it to turn autopilot on that one. Well, what's going to happen with that? Well, since it's set to one way, the second it reaches the end of the one way, it disables this autopilot. Well, our back autopilot, it doesn't have anything set up. Let's really quickly just add something to it. So an A2 has been added to it. And we're just going to set that to one way as well. So now, as soon as it reaches that point there, because we did setup action basically determines what should happen once it reaches the end of a one-way path. It doesn't seem to work for circle, it doesn't seem to work for patrol, but it does indeed work. Ooh, there we go. Like I said, they're completely blind. It does indeed work for one-way. So once it reaches the end of that one-way path, it triggers whatever you set the action up for. Now, unfortunately, as I said, they're all blind, so they're just running around into each other like idiots. Slightly unfortunate. They're so funny, though. I love them. Let's go ahead and set the waypoint drone now. We're going to go ahead and turn on its original thing again. Turn that back on since the other remote control would have shut itself off. And you can see now it's just going to go ahead and try to make its way back to the other one. Unfortunately, again, it's blind as a bat, so it's going to run into stuff on its way. But it's got enough spare thrusters, it should make it there without an issue. There we go. And so now it's just going to start its same old loop again. Pretty awesome stuff. We can, of course, set up more complex things. So we got the Beetle over here. If we're going to go ahead and select the Beetle through its antenna setup. There we go. We're going to select its control panel. And you can see I've got 12 different things set up in here. We're going to set this just to circle. Turn on autopilot, and this thing is going to fly all over. Now, I'm going to take this time to explain something, well, about the inertial dampers. So let's actually go ahead and select, not waypoint drone. Actually, yeah, waypoint drone. Best way to describe it. since we've already been looking at that one, we're going to go ahead and select its remote control block. And, oh, did we not? What did we, what? Oh dear. See, Sage is silly. It's few of you probably figured this out already, but I forgot to turn off, I forgot to remove the go to R2 thing with the reverse. So what has happened here is, while I wasn't paying attention, that poor Waypoint drone went ahead, went through its first set of commands, so it went through waypoint 1, 2, and 3, and it reached the point where setup action is supposed to happen. Well, unfortunately, setup action doesn't show up in here. In fact, it's very annoying that it doesn't create like a new thing when you do setup action, a new list of a new command you can name in here and then add or remove it up here. That way you could have it happen in between waypoints maybe. No, unfortunately, it just happens. So as you can see, it was still set to toggle that second remote control block. So once it finished its loop, it went ahead and just started the same thing over again. And unfortunately, I think I also forgot to set it to circle. Yeah, I left it on one way. If we had set it to circle, it would have been fine. So let's go ahead and set that back up. This is, of course, shut off now, and it's just going to go back and actually do what it was supposed to do. Oh, poor thing. I put it through a lot today. Oh. Feel so bad for it. Yeah. So there we go. And of course this one, you can see it's now just finished its loop. It went all over this place, but you couldn't see it. Another thing to point out, while it's actually doing its loop now, and I'm not being distracted by a failure, is that if we were to go to our GPS here, we got the Eikester 1, 2, and 3 that you saw me set up. We can actually go ahead and delete these. Because the drone has already had those 3 waypoints entered into its system, it now is just going to remember those. So we don't have to worry about the drone suddenly forgetting where to go. It knows where those waypoints were. It has their old names there. It doesn't really matter what the name is. The point is those locations are saved, so it's going to keep looping between those 3 locations, even though I can no longer look at them. It should also be noted that if, while I had those, I went ahead and selected them and changed their numbers in any way here, that would not have changed where the drone was going. Its location data of where those waypoints are, as I already said, is saved in the drone itself. So even though I might change where I see the waypoint is, the drone still is going off of the original information it was given when you first did the add button on that waypoint. So that's that. It's all important information. It's pretty damn cool stuff, actually. And it means that you can go ahead and hide stuff off your HUD, and in fact even clear out your actual GPS lists if you decide you're done with stuff here. So in fact, I could delete this is running on those A, 1, 2, and 3. This is run on a B, 1, 2, and 3. I could delete all that and they would carry on. So something I was going to point out before I got so distracted was actually, I've just remembered what it actually was. It was the Beetle. If we go in here and we disable its inertial dampeners. Now you might think now, oh dear Lord God, this ship is going to slide all over the place. It's going to give forward thrust until it gets to the objective and slide right. It just stopped. It stopped at the waypoint. Okay, it's going to go to the next waypoint and keep on. Nope. No, it stops. While it has remote control on the ship, well, while it's on autopilot, I should say, the ship pretty much just goes from point A to point B, stops at every single damn point, aims at the next one, and then goes. It can be a bit finicky, you can see it can be a bit wiggly if it's got too much gyroscope power, but the point is, it gets there, and even with inertial dampers on, you don't have to worry about it drifting out. Now, unfortunately, this does mean if you want to have a nice smooth curve around your asteroid or something, you can't really do that. You can put a bunch of little ones there, but every time it gets to one, it's going to slow down, stop, and then aim at the next one, even if it's only a few degrees off. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but you just have to make do with it. And I can also, of course, demonstrate the inertial dampers off with the one drone right here, which I originally was going to do it with, wasn't I? And let's go ahead, forward, disable inertial dampeners. Once again, it's just going to keep on going like it always has, as if nothing's changed. Now, mind you, if the remote control gets shut off, then it's, of course, if anything bumps it, it's not going to correct its course, it's going to just drift and float. What else do we have here? Did that one just bump it? I thought it bumped it. It was just making a sharp turn. So yeah, that one's going to keep on looping. What else? Well, we got this one here. I believe this one's called... That was slightly weird to come back to it. Oh, there's a little hole through it there, too. A little bit of a glitch happened when it took some damage. Okay, but the next one here is, I believe, is called the runner. So we got the runner right here. What the runner I sort of designed to do is that if we were to select it and hit control over it, so we've actually clicked the control button, tapped into its camera, you can see my number 2 block is a timer block. Well, this timer is set up so that after 2 minutes, what it's going to do is trigger the remote control block. The remote control block autopilot, to be more exact. It's on and off. You can't just set them to be on, like there's no just on option here. It's just on and off for everything. Bit odd, but that's how it works. And the idea behind this is that if I'm flying this ship out here, and I've just pressed number 2, so I've started the 2-minute countdown, if I'm still in control when that counter hits 0, I'll still have control of the ship. It won't boot me out. But if I'm flying through an area of space and I'm worried that, oh dear God, something might happen to me, I might fly too far out, you know, if I fly out of range of the antennas, suddenly I'm not going to be able to communicate anymore. All these worries, well, then you can have that timer counting down. So we can go ahead and look at that timer. It's still got 1 minute and 30 seconds. So if we happen to fly out of range, which we are obviously going to do in, I don't know, maybe we won't make it in time. Yeah, I think we'll make it in time. I'm giving it the beans and inertial dampers are off. Well, once it runs out of that range, once the timer hits 0, it's going to trigger that remote control block, which I have set to go to a waypoint that I've named home, which is basically above my whole working area. So this drone, even though it's coming to be completely out of our control, will still return home. So any second now we're going to lose contact about 500 meters. Just make sure that timer wasn't set for too short of a time. Because again, if it goes off before, yep, I've just lost contact. This runner any second now is going to disappear because its inertial dampers are off. So it's going to carry on actually at that huge speed for a whole minute. So it's going to be gone actually for quite some time. In fact, it's a bit odd that I can still see it. I shouldn't be able to see it because it can only broadcast up to 5,000 meters and we have nothing that can be picking up its signal. So that's a glitch right there as far as I can tell. But eventually it will indeed turn on that remote control block and bring itself home. So even though I shouldn't be able to see it, even though when I press K it is most definitely out of range as I cannot contact it through here, eventually that number is going to start decreasing and it'll come back here. Even though inertial dampers are off, it'll of course counter that when it takes control and brings it home. Blimey, that is a long minute. I even cut there and took a drink, but oh dear. What else do we got for this update? I think that's actually about it. It's a pretty advanced update, really. It's a, you know, it's a change to a single block, but it's not artificial intelligence, but it's waypoint piloting. You know, allowing you to set waypoints. Oh, there we go. There, and the numbers started dropping, and allow you to set up ships that'll go in loops and patrols and on their way back once. So if you're out there mining on something, you're like, you know, I'm going to send this ship back to base for my buddies. Hey guys, the ship's on its way back to our designated waypoint. It can go in there. You can even, of course, have a set of waypoints, so when you send a ship back home, it'll go through your corridors and dock itself at the right spot, or at least get itself to the right spot. Unfortunately, like I said, aligning one way up and down doesn't seem to really save. Right now, you can't really save the rotation of a ship at certain points. And of course, with the ability to set up actions, it only seems like it wants to set up actions when they're at the end of a one-way path. So that could be very useful for sending a ship home. But I'd also want them at other points to do other things like launch, you know, send off a missile or something every now and again, or who knows what. Anyways, that's it for this update. You can see the runner is indeed on its way back. It's going to be a while still, so I'm just going to end it right here. The runner comes back, its beacon's up there. And of course, if I had deleted that beacon, it would still do its job. That's it for this update. Oh my god, no it's not. I've just remembered something. Something fairly fantastic I don't think they had in the patch notes. Or if they did, I didn't notice it. This right here, Control C. This is all station, right? This is a station right here. Control C. Notice something? Notice something here? It's not snapping. Usually stations snap wherever you put them. This is still a station. Look, if I click and paste it while moving, it doesn't go flying. It stops. This is still a station. Well, stations now act like buildings do in medieval engineers, which means you can now build with them in more fantastical ways than we ever could before. So I can do this, as we've been doing for ages in space engineers and copying, pasting stations, and even ships too, because you can do this with ships. But, you know, of course, with a ship, if you cut a piece off, you can't really connect it too easily. Whereas this, if I go ahead and accidentally cut through here, this piece is now completely separate. I do Control C on it. Oh dear, if it was a ship, I couldn't reconnect it. Now, of course, I can just go ahead, aim there, and it should, there we go, be completely reconnected. So you can still reconnect stuff as you would when you're building with a station. Also, something absolutely oh, there we go, the runner has made it back into our area. Hello, runner. I hope you had a nice voyage. Of course, you can also do everything I've talked about on those remote control blocks on large ship blocks. So you can go ahead and set up a large ship to go out and explore some far-flung place. Oh dear. I guess it went past its spot by a little bit there and had to correct itself. But yeah, so you can set up a large exploration ship and basically go, okay, go to here, say new, and then just set up some waypoint at 44 trillion miles away, and then just set a large ship on its way out there. So we could do that, select the runner, let's go ahead and turn its, inertial dampers apparently work back on, and set it to not go to that waypoint, but tell it to go all the way out to the new waypoint we made that we didn't even name. There we go. And not to patrol, just go there. And so now runner is going to run way out there to that new waypoint, way out in the middle of nowhere. And of course, as I was saying, with a large ship, you can have a respawn bay on it, so you can theoretically do the backspace and survival off yourself and respawn there. Or maybe you have a Stargate mod installed or something like that, so you could send a ship out to the far-flung places of the galaxy. But remember, these drones are blind, so if they run into something, they're going to just run into it. Yeah. So as I was saying about the construction of blocks, in the past, of course, you could do what I've shown here, except for it could be a bit more finicky about reconnecting stuff, and you could reconnect everything. But now, you don't have to be snapped to a grid. So for one, you already have more freedom in how you build your stations and distance to other things. And two, you can do this. And you can paste this. And it's still a station. So I can still I can still put blocks on here, sever it, and still put another block, oh, not there, right there, and this is still reconnected. So you can now have stations at any angle. I'm pretty damn sure they did this to prepare for the planet update, so we're going to be seeing that sooner rather than later, hopefully, fingers crossed, because this is definitely another thing that seems like they were worried about. How do we put structures on a planet if everything has to go around a sphere, and everything they currently had for stations was set up, down, left, right, forward, back. You couldn't rotate it at angles. Well, now you can. So, another thing that is awesome about this too is for shipbuilding, of course, and modular designs. I can do a Control-V here. Let's actually go ahead and make sure we got it right at that point. Control-V, paste it, get it right there, cool. Control-V, paste it, aim at that point, do a Control-X on it, and do another Control-V over here, and there we go, it's snapping. And when it snaps, I think, oh no, it doesn't want to rotate, but I should be able to rotate it. Well, now it's not wanting to rotate. What? Well, it was rotating a second ago, now it's decided to be finicky. I don't quite understand why that's happened. There we go, so now this one was rotating for us. That's really weird that suddenly that didn't want to rotate even though it was rotating a second ago. We know they're all stations. Still must have some finicky growth to it. But yeah, the idea was that I was going to show off is the fact that you can now flip stuff around and paste it in and make interesting shapes like that. So you could build a whole half of ship and then, as long as it's front-back symmetrical, paste it around. So maybe if the very front of your ship's going to be different, just don't build that. Anyway, I clicked from the wrong spot there. I meant to click from there and paste it in, but you get the gist of it. It's pretty cool stuff. It's a fantastic update. Unfortunately, the LOD's level of details for these slanted blocks is still god-awful. It still pops it down to the bog standard ones, absolutely ruining the look of your ship from any distance more than, like, what is that, 20 meters away or something. It just ruins the look of larger ships, which is why you haven't seen too many large ships from me, because I'm like, oh, I'll build this, and I get halfway down, and I'm like, oh my god, it looks like a nightmare. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's it for this update. It's all very awesome stuff. It's fantastic stuff, and, yeah. I can't wait to see what they do next. This, remote control stuff in the waypoints is great. It's fantastic. And I'm sure sooner rather than later we'll see, hopefully, ways to actually just add other commands into the list of waypoints you go through. So it gets to this waypoint and then instantly does this command and then heads to the next one. All sorts of cool stuff. You could have a 3D printer that flies out to this place, lays a drone, and then flies out to the next waypoint you've set. And you could theoretically just set up a whole field of antenna relays that way. Awesome, awesome stuff. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks so much for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Ta-ta.